The next step after cleaning the sealer off is to resand the pavers. The purpose of the sand is to keep the pavers locked together. And use an all-purpose sand for this task. And usually use a broom to broom the sand over the surface, over the cracks. In this small area, it's a small broom. You can use a larger broom in a larger area. You'll want to watch the sand fall down into the crevices and take your little pile of sand and roll it over all the cracks until it's not falling in anymore. Back and forth. Sometimes if you have a wide gap, you'll need to help the sand fall down into the gap. Often it's just a couple of passes and that gap is full. So, okay, the important piece to this is to build a line of sand that you can push down into the crevices as it goes by, and then when it fills that and falls down into the hole, you pull it back over, push it back, until you don't get any gaps. All right, so this is what you want to look out for a little bit in your sand. This sand here, the darker sand, is what was left over of what wasn't falling in between the cracks. So I just grabbed the scoopful up, and so even though you thought you were working the sand back and forth across the pavers, it wasn't going in between the cracks. So we went and got some all-purpose sand, and you can see how much more uniform and smaller. There's no real big pieces in here, and this is going to make it easier for us to fill in those cracks at the end. So what's happening is we'd brush it across the surface, and some of the dirt in between would fall in. It was acting like a filter, but this would stay on the surface, and you work it back and forth, and it just wouldn't fall in the cracks. So having a finer, here you can see if you mix them in, having a finer sand, this stuff would fall in, and this stuff would stay on the surface. So what you want to do when you're looking for your all-purpose sand is look for something that's like a nice uniform thick granule like this, so that it'll fall between the cracks and you won't get this phenomenon filtering off the big rocks on top. Make the job go a lot easier. What you want to do when you're rinsing this off is to not draw the sand out from in between the pavers too deep. You want to leave an 1/8 gap between the top of the paver and the sand top. So you want to shoot across on an angle with your water broom. So you'll end up with a paver for this. You can actually do it with like a 40 or a 50 on a pressure washing 25-degree type of a soak tip. There's enough water pressure here that this is moving the sand nicely without actually removing the sand between the brick units. So one of the things that'll happen when you're rinsing is you're going to find areas where the sand may be covered in a 1/2 inch near the top of the paver, but not below. When you rinse, it pushes the sand down further. So here in this area, it looked like the sand was great, but when we rinsed, it pulled all the sand down around the paver, so we need to re-sand this again. So don't be discouraged when you find that when you're trying to rinse the sand off the top, that it actually ends up with a couple more gaps in your paver. So you need to fill those again. Once you fill them, they'll rinse off nice.
Alright, we're finished sanding now, and it's time to go seal.